Hello, fellow YouTubers, truth seekers, and Mandela affected. I am Darkwolf, and this is Darkwolf's Den. This is Mandela Effect Theory Series number 12. This is the evolution theory. Evolution theory states that due to a number of factors, which we will list and discuss to some length, the Mandela effect is merely the side effect of something far greater going on involving 2012, the age of Aquarius, and even junk DNA. So, again, there's a variety of variables and factors going into this. First would be brainwave frequency. Then we have the age of Aquarius, the Schumann resonance, 2012, empathy in HD, and junk DNA. And I know what you're thinking, these sound like game show slots. They kind of do, don't they? But that's off topic. Anyway, the first variable would be brainwave frequency. This part of the theory states that the variation in Mandela effect experiences is due to the variable frequencies present within and between individuals. So, to put that in more of a layman's term speak, a person's experience as part of the Mandela effect is dependent upon that person's frequency at that time. By frequency, I mean brainwave frequency, and we'll get into more of that in a second. Due to the changing frequencies from a number of factors around us, which we will also momentarily get into. So, moving on. Speaking about brain waves, we must understand the different types of brain waves because this is very, very important for what we are doing. So I have a link up here in the very top. If anybody wants to source my material, feel free to go ahead and do such. I always challenge anybody who wants to challenge me, please. So going into brain waves, there are 5 types of brain waves. We have the delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. So let's start with delta. Delta is 0 to 4 hertz. It is the slowest of the brain waves. Usually controls the unconscious functions like, breathing and sleeping and all the things we do without thinking about. This is primarily found in infants and children. And like I said, it's mainly to do with sleep. That is the lowest of all the brain waves, lowest activity. So then you have the theta, 4 to 8 hertz of activity. The higher theta would be, the side effects would be ADHD, depression, hyperactivity, impulsivity, and inattentiveness. The lower theta waves would be anxiety, poor emotional awareness, and even stress. But when you have optimal theta waves, you get creativity, emotional connection, intuition, and even relaxation. Next, we have the alpha wave. These are 8 to 12 hertz. I put here that this is what the Schumann was. I was actually a little incorrect. It would fall into the theta waves because it was 7.83 for a very long time. Hundreds of years, actually, which we'll get into later also. So forgive me, I put that in the wrong slot. But it does connect our consciousness and our subconsciousness, which is vitally important. When it is raised alpha waves, we have daydreaming, inability to focus, and way too relaxed. When our alpha waves are lowered, we have anxiety, high stress, insomnia, and even OCD. Next, we have beta waves. Beta waves are 12 to 40 hertz, and they're pretty much what a Schumann runs at now. The adrenaline would be higher with increased beta waves. We would have higher anxiety, higher arousal, and inability to relax and higher stress, opposed to lower theta waves would have such side effects as ADHD, daydreaming, depression, and poor cognition. Optimal beta waves would be responsible for conscious focus, memory, and problem solving. Things to increase beta waves would be something like coffee, energy drinks, or various stimulants. And then we have the highest, of 40 to 100 hertz. These are responsible. The higher gamma waves are responsible for anxiety, high arousal, stress. Apologize for yawning in everybody's ear there. And the lower ones are responsible for ADHD, depression, and even learning disabilities. So when our gamma waves are higher, we learn better, and when they're lower, we don't. Optimally would be binding the senses, cognition, information processing, learning, and perception. I've also got down here that during meditation is when we would find our highest gamma waves, ironically and interestingly enough. So, now that we've learned this little bit of information, let's see if we can't connect it a little bit. Brainwaves determine our perception of the world. Therefore, if anything alters our brainwaves, it will definitely alter how we perceive everything around us. For instance, if one takes something like acid, LSD, it changes the brainwaves to perceive colors and sounds much, much more vividly. Moving on, we now have the Age of Aquarius. I want everybody to keep the previous information we just went over in mind. I promise I'm actually leading somewhere. So, our next topic would be the Age of Aquarius. And a lot of people speak about this, so I feel that we should define exactly what it is. It is an astrological term denoting either the current or forthcoming astrological age, depending on your method of calculation. Astrological ages, however, proceed in the opposite direction or retrograde in astronomy. Therefore, the age of Aquarius follows the age of Pisces, and I got this information from Wikipedia. I like to give sources when I do my videos just so people can go back and verify everything I've said and where I got my information from. If you equalize the size of the signs of the zodiac, you need to consider when the age of Pisces started to be able to know when the age of Aquarius begins. Of course, you don't know when one starts, you don't know when it ends to begin the next one. Well, apparently there's no real consensus among all the astrologers as to when it began, so there's no consensus as to when the age of Aquarius began. This information comes from Human World by Bruce McClure and Deborah Boyd. Um, Personally, this is Darkwolf speaking. I think that we have entered or are entering the age of Aquarius right now. That is not based on any information besides my own personal beliefs. So, the age of Aquarius, you hear a lot of people talk about could be, this, that, and the other. I have a feeling that the age of Aquarius is upon us for a reason connected to the Mandela effect. We'll get into that more deeply here in a moment. Next, we have the Schumann resonance. Now, this is something you hear Dr. Tarrin Lupo talk about a lot. For hundreds of years, it was at 7.83. It's known as the Earth's heartbeat. And the oddity is that for a long time it was at 7.83, but now it is not. So, what is the Schumann resonance? This global electromagnetic resonance phenomenon is named after physicist Winifred Otto Schumann, who predicted it mathematically in 1952. Again, this information is from Wikipedia. For those who watch the show know, we use Wikipedia a lot. The Schumann resonance is defined by the amount of lightning strikes or plasmatic release hitting the Earth at any given moment. The vibrations get trapped between the ionosphere and the Earth, and this is recorded as the Schumann resonance. So the more lightning strikes we have, the higher the resonance would be. The lower the lightning strike number, the lower the resonance would be, because it's sending the vibrational frequencies around the planet, depending on how much plasmatic chaos is released. So, does the Schumann frequency affect humans? Short answer, yes, it does. We are actually directly connected to the Earth's vibrations. And there's been studies done where astronauts have went into space, and after so long of being disconnected from the vibration of the Earth, their body actually becomes physically sick and does not work as properly as it should. So, the Schumann resonance is very, very important to the human body. When the Schumann resonance is high, people tend to get extremely on edge, are easily aggravated, and just very, very fight or flight response type. Whereas when the Schumann resonance is lower, we're more calm, we're more happy, more loving, more open to ideas. And I have found this in my own life. And this makes a lot of sense to me because, well, the reason for this is most likely because our reaction to the Earth's heartbeat directly affecting the frequency of our brain waves. Now, let me back up a minute. The Schumann resonance is, again, it's a vibration. So when it's going higher, it's kind of like a high heartbeat. When your heartbeat is increased, you're very on edge. It's a fight or flight response. You've got to go. You got to do. You're waiting for the next thing to go wrong. Whereas when your heartbeat is lower and more calm, you're more relaxed, you're more happy, more loving, and aren't in that stressed fight or flight mode. So it is very, very much true that the human resonance directly affects humans, mainly because of our brain waves and its interaction with the frequency of our brain waves. For instance, on Easter Sunday, the Schumann resonance spiked up to 90, which, may I add, is the highest spike we've ever recorded since we've been recording the Schumann resonance. And that put people on edge a lot, at least in my own experience. Some people have speculated, this is not Darkwolf talking, this is what people have told me. They believe that it could be due to the raising could be due to the power of everyone's consciousness focused on prayer. Consciousness does affect reality. There's something called the Consciousness Project, and you can find that on the same website you find the Schumann Resonance. I think it's Heart Life or Heart Matters. You look it up. I forgot to post it. I'll try to post it in the bottom if I can remember. Heart Math, that's what it was, heartmath.org. Anyway, they also cover the Global Consciousness Project, and this was set up around 2000 or so. Maybe 99, year 2000. And what happened is this person or these people put random number generators all over the world in random spots. And the idea is if they all hit the exact same number randomly, then our consciousness could be affecting the outcome. So say all the random number generators hit 7 at the exact same time. Perhaps our consciousness affected that change. Perhaps it hit 7 repeatedly over and over and over and over. Then it's even more idea that our consciousness or our group consciousness, mind you, I'm not talking an individual, I'm talking the entire overall group consciousness of the planet, most likely affects this, which means it affects reality. I say most likely because there's evidence to back this up. There was one huge spike about a year after they started it, and this happened to be the day of September 11th, 2001, also known as 9/11. The oddity here is the spike didn't begin at 9:30 or 8:30 or whatever time the event occurred. No, 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 no. The spike occurred from midnight to midnight on September 11th. So there was something in our consciousness before that ever happened, and we knew something was about to happen. I just find that so intriguing. But moving on. One last note. For hundreds and hundreds of years, it stayed at 7.83, the Schumann resonance. And it's only been the last couple of years that it has began to raise and lower very inconsistently. Now, this is my assumption that this has to do with weather modification being used, because as we learned moments ago, the Schumann is determined by the amount of lightning being released at any given moment on planet Earth. So, if the weather modification, say HARP, shooting heated energy into the ionosphere and is bouncing back down, it would most likely have that effect on the Schumann resonance. Also, increasing the amount of thunderstorms across the planet is going to have the same effect on the Schumann resonance, which I believe weather modification could very well be a high likely source for this. So please be sure to hit that thumbs up and let us know you liked it. This is part 1 of a 2-part video. So you're probably asking, what does this have to do with Mandela effect? Well, it's got a lot to do with Mandela effect, actually. Because as we discussed in the beginning, our brainwaves are perception. The way we perceive the world is how our brainwaves are functioning at any given moment. So if we have even these 3 factors interacting with our brainwaves, it actually could cause a whole lot of oddities, what we would know as Mandela effects. Now, on this note, I would like to go back a little bit to the age of Aquarius, because there's one more thing I'd like to say about this. It is my theory, and it is a theory that I am injecting here, that when we move into different areas of stars, we're receiving the vibrations from those stars, both light vibrations and electromagnetic frequency scales all the way across the board. As we were in Pisces, we experienced life in the world a certain way. But it's my belief that as we start to get the vibrations from the stars coming out of the Aquarius constellation, that perhaps those vibrations interacting with the earth is changing how we perceive everything around us, if not even through our brainwaves themselves. Two examples I will give. The one I always give, and I know everybody gets sick of hearing me say it, but the Berenstain Bears. What if, because of the light frequency changing, because understand reflection is nothing more than reflection of the light frequency that comes into our eyes. So if we're seeing it one way and the light shining on it changes, we could potentially be seeing it another way. Well, what does that have to do with things we hear, like music changing and songs changing? Again, it's frequency. So if the frequency are being altered before it comes into our bodies or our eardrums specifically, then very well possible that it is only being altered to our perception and that it could have been this way the entire time. I know that's a wild thought to wrap your head around, but it could have been. So all these factors go into the idea that perhaps that all these things are changing our brainwaves and how we experience the world. And it's by that measure that we are experiencing the Mandela effect through frequency changes. Changes of the Earth's frequency, changes of the frequencies coming into the Earth, and both of these affecting our brainwaves. Now, I believe that when the human resonance goes up, our brainwaves go down, and vice versa. And I think it's a rubber band effect, up and down, back and forth. That is only an idea. I'm more personally going towards the idea of weather modification being the cause of the changing in human. Again, if you like this video, if you like anything any YouTuber does, please be sure to hit that thumbs up and let us know. And what this does, it not only is a thank you to the video maker, but it is also how YouTube rates our videos and rates us as video makers. So please, if you like something a video maker does, hit that thumbs up, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit all them buttons except the dislike. But if you do dislike it, make sure to spread that too. Also, yes, remember to hit the bell, because if you don't hit the bell, you will not get notifications for our future episodes. So make sure you get notified by hitting that bell also. Last but not least, everybody remember, stay awake, but dare to dream. Now, I would like to give one last note. For those who don't know, I am a co-host of the Rockinati show with UniRock. We try to do these every night. You can find those also on my channel. Please check them out. We do cover Mandela effects along with a variety of other topics. So check out the Rockinati show. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe if you like what we do. We appreciate everybody. Thanks, y'all. See you next time on the Theory Series, part 2 of the evolution theory. Thanks, everybody. See you later. Hello, fellow YouTubers, truth seekers, and Mandela affected. I am Darkwolf, and this is Darkwolf's Den. This is the Mandela Effect Theory Series. I would like to say real quickly, this is only a theory, and this is a theory brought to me by a group of people, which I did actually correspond in. So part of this is mine, yes. But this was brought to me by a group and asked for me to be put forward. So this is not only my ideas. This is a whole bunch of people's ideas that have been put together into a conglomerate between video 1 and video 2 to finally lead to a conclusion. Now, I promise you, I will seem to go off topic here and there. Don't worry, I will lead somewhere. This is going somewhere, I promise. So, that said, The only other thing I ask is if you challenge anything I say. I have no problem with that. If you think I'm wrong about something, I have no problem at all admitting I'm wrong. The only thing I will ask is that you please put in the comments your evidence, because I want to learn why I'm wrong. I don't just want somebody to tell me, hey, you're not right on that. Show me why I'm not right. That helps me learn also, along with anybody looking at the feed. So that's excellent. I don't mind being challenged. I just ask you show me why. So getting back now, the housekeeping is done. This is, again, the Mandela Effect Theory, Series number 12, Part 2. This is the evolution frequency theory. This states that, due to a number of factors, which we have discussed and will discuss more of, the Mandela effect is merely the side effect of something far greater going on, involving 2012, the age of Aquarius, and junk DNA. In the last video, we discussed brainwaves, the age of Aquarius, and the Schumann resonance. In this video, we will discuss the remaining 3 topics. So, the remaining 3 topics are 2012, empathy HD, and junk DNA. For anyone who just may have missed the last video, we're going to do a little review anyway. Lucky you. So, review. Our brains work on 5 different frequency sets. They are delta, beta, theta, alpha, and gamma. Here's a chart of each brainwave set, what the frequencies for them are, and what the causes are if we have low, high, or optimal versions of these. If you notice, ADHD is in the high theta range, but in the low beta and low gamma ranges. So this suggests to me that it is tied directly to our brainwaves. Why? Because the chart says so. So part 2, the age of Aquarius and how it may affect the frequency of the planet. The age of Aquarius is an astrological term denoting either the current or forthcoming astrological age, depending on the method of calculation. Astrological ages, however, proceed in the opposite direction, or retrograde, in astronomy. So the age of Aquarius would actually follow the age of Pisces. The age of Pisces has been going on since the time of Jesus' birth, according to the Bible. That's why he's considered the fish, or you find the fish symbol with Christianity. It is my belief, and I say my belief because in the last video we discussed it is not nailed down to a specific time date. But it is my belief that we are entering, or already have entered, the age of Aquarius. This information does come from Wikipedia. I'm trying to put all my sources down in the bottom of each slide. I didn't get every one of them, but I almost did. As we move through the different zodiac signs, we are facing different stars. Perhaps the vibration of light frequency from those stars is causing us to experience the world just a little differently than we normally would. Review number 3, the Schumann resonance. So this is such a big topic. Not only do I have to hit it twice, I have to go back and do a whole nother video because there's just so much information about it. And I'd like to clear up a lot of misconceptions in the community also. So what is the Schumann resonance? It is defined as the amount of lightning hitting the Earth at any given moment. The vibrations get trapped between the ionosphere and the Earth, and this is recorded as a Schumann resonance. Now, I do understand there are a lot of other variables that go into this, including the Earth's own electromagnetic field. I'm trying to think of the way to say that, or shield is also known as. So, the Schumann resonance is basically the recording of the changes in this field. I will get into a lot more depth in this in a whole nother video, I promise. We are directly tied to the Schumann resonance, and I mean directly tied to that. How do we know that? Well, when early astronauts started going into space, they found that their bodies were deteriorating a lot more than usual. We figured out, or NASA figured out, I should say, that the Schumann resonance and being away from it is actually what's causing it. So they installed Schumann simulators into all space shuttles. These are magnetic pulse generators that mimic the Earth's frequency of 7.83. This demonstrated the fact that we cannot be healthy if we are disconnected from the natural biological frequency, which in short terms means we are directly, without a doubt, connected to the Schumann resonance. This is the Schumann resonance generator. You can buy many of these online. This is just one version that I found. I was surprised by how many different versions you can buy online. And what it does is send out a timed pulse of 7.83 hertz every so often. If you want to build one yourself, here's the schematic. This is the chart of the Schumann frequency. And this is a live data chart from April 29th through May 4th. In my last video, I discussed how to read it, so if you want to understand how to read it, go back and look at that if you haven't figured it out from looking at this slide. Personally, I figured it out by looking at it. It took me a couple minutes. But if you do need an explanation on that or need me to describe exactly what's going on in more depth, please check my last video. So this is the trends in ADHD over time. Well, why am I talking about ADHD? Well, remember that chart we had earlier and I pointed out that the lower brain waves cause the ADHD? Well, I also noticed that there's a slight growth in the cases from 1996 to 2014. It's been a slow but steady growth. And I noticed that the graph here reminds me a lot of this graph. Up and down, just like the Schumann resonance has been. So you might think, well, that's odd. That's just, you're correlating things that don't go together. Perhaps. But look at this. This is the cases of autism over time from 1992 to 2003. In 1993, it started recording a growth. From there, it exponentially raised, up to 805% growth at the top. If I had a product on the market that had an 805% growth, I'd have a winner on my hands, I'm just saying. So, why is that of any count? Well, this again, the Schumann resonance probably has a lot to do with that. Why do I think that Schumann resonance has a lot to do with that? Well, because I found a piece of correlating evidence that even I couldn't believe. So this is HAARP. A lot of people might be thinking right now, you're talking about HAARP, that's conspiracy. Well, number one, it's not conspiracy anymore. It's admitted, this is real. This is a wiki page on HAARP. So, what is HAARP? High frequency, there's that word again, frequency, active auroral research program. So what they're doing is they're shooting high energy frequencies into the ionosphere. We discussed that earlier with the Schumann, didn't we? And when they send these waves into the ionosphere, it heats it up and causes a change in this. Now, we could say that because the frequency is being shot into the ionosphere, it could change the Schumann resonance, but I've got an even better explanation. The frequencies shooting into the ionosphere is changing the actual patterns of the weather on the planet, whether directly or indirectly, whether they know it or not. It is changing the weather patterns. With this weather pattern change, then you could definitely have a change in the amount of lightning. The change in the amount of lightning would be a direct correlation to the Schumann frequency. So, why did I say it's connected to autism though? Oh, I haven't forgotten, I promise you. If you look below the picture right here, it says it was established in 1993. Well, if we can go back for a second to our other graph, in 1993 we saw a 22% rise in autism cases. I'm sorry, that's 23%. 22 to 23%. And a steady increase from there. A large growth over time. And it all started in 1993 when HAARP was turned on. So it is my belief that HAARP is causing a change in the Schumann frequency that is causing mental instabilities and mental conditions in people, whether purposely or not on purpose. So just in case you're asking, well, how can that be possible? How exactly would that work? I propose a theory. I propose that when the Schumann frequency, say in GCI 001 in California right now, it is very, very low. I propose that during this time, children born are developing, their brains developing, different aspects of their brain waves developing, or brain features developing, could be developing on a lower frequency, therefore you would have the ADHD. Opposed to the same kid on April 29th, or another kid on April 29th in GCI 004, that is Lithuania, that is Alberta, Canada, and on the same day the resonance was high there, so perhaps that person would come out with more gamma and alpha waves, opposed to the lower theta and beta waves. It is just a theory, but it does seem to tie together a lot of things, from autism to ADHD or other mental difficulties or brain instability difficulties, all the way to the Schumann resonance, and from there all the way to HAARP, and what could be, in my opinion, causing it. I know I've got off on a bit of a tangent, but I promise it is going somewhere. I didn't lie. So now let's get into our next 3 topics now that we've covered the Schumann. So 2012 and cosmic energy. Number 1, let me go ahead and get it out of the way. You cannot even speak the words 2012 without talking about the Mayans. The Mayans and many, many other cultures said that this year right here, 2012, not 2017, but 2012, would be a major, major change in something, in the earth, in humanity, in humankind. But they couldn't tell us exactly what it would be, probably because even they didn't know. But they knew the ages changed, just like the age of Aquarius. So it is my belief that they were telling us the age of Aquarius, or a new age, is coming upon us. I believe that's all that it was really telling us at all. Not that the world was going to end and all that craziness. This is what I believe it was telling us. Something was going to occur, maybe like the Mandela effect, perhaps, that we weren't going to be able to understand. So let me back this up with a bit of science now. Because a lot of people think 2012, oh, he went woo-woo. I promise you, every time I go woo-woo, I will bring it back around to science. I'm good at it. I've been doing it for a long time. I promise it's going to happen. Watch this. In 2012, the Earth passed through a region of space that lined up with the galactic center of our universe, where a supermassive black hole just happens to lay, and the center of every other universe, too, that we've found, at least most of them. So this black hole is constantly sending out many different types of particles that are theorized to be released because of something called Hawking radiation. So Hawking radiation is thought to be the energy that is slowly radiating outwards from the black hole until it is completely dissipated. Now that I've read them all, let me go back and give you a little bit of information on this. So Stephen Hawking is a physicist, theoretical, and astro. And very, very, very incredibly brilliant man. If you ever have a chance, please look into him. There's a movie made about him. He's one of the greatest minds of our time. He's our time's Einstein. And he said that as a black hole eats stuff, it's got to do something with the data because it cannot be lost. Data cannot be destroyed nor created, merely changed. So, it's his idea that it just radiates outwards until there's no more black hole. Well, if we cross the plane in 2012 of where this radiation is occurring, perhaps its effects on this planet have been more so than we've noticed. Or it could just be the new area of space that we're now traveling through in the age of Aquarius, and the particles being interacted with just by our passing through it could have effects on our cells and the Earth itself. So it is my assumption these particles interacting with our bodies on a cellular level could be causing major changes to our bodies, including DNA, and thus our overall perception of the world. We will get it further into DNA later, don't worry, that's just a teaser. Now, for those who've been watching Jacob Israel over the past week, he released a video a couple days ago, and I just had to include his information. I promise I'm not copying Jacob Israel's ideas. It's great information he put out there, and I am reusing the data. So, cosmologists now say that because of the Big Bang and the cosmic microwave background, they found this tiny hole, this tiny area that is no radiation at all. The cosmic microwave background, just for those wondering, is the radiation that was left over when the Big Bang occurred. So it suddenly shot out real quick and then it stopped and slowed or whatever it did, and now we're to where we are right now. Well, there's a background radiation that's always there, and we can detect it and we can read it, and there's maps on top of maps on top of maps on it. But if you notice where my white arrow is pointing, that blue spot right there, let's go ahead and blow it up. So this blue spot right here is what cosmologists are saying could be where two universes have bounced into each other or are touching basically a parallel universe in this one, and data could be being transferred between the two. Or the lack of radiation is there evidence for this. So, as woo-woo as this one may sound, remember this is cosmologists saying it, not just Darkwolf. The cosmologists go on the idea of membrane theory. Again, this is only a theory. This is the cosmological idea that the universe itself is like a great big silicon membrane. And inside of this membrane is everything we know, and there are others floating around us. And perhaps, according to science, when we bounce off of these or bump into one, perhaps it would create a little gap like that. Or I'm going to take this a step further, because this is just a theory. I'm going to go a little further and say, if we're moving through this area of space, or this area of space is even facing towards us and it's touching a parallel dimension, it would very, very much be a reason for the Mandela effect. Now, I used a lot of ifs in there because I don't have the data to verify any of that previous information right there about that area as far as us moving through it. However, it is a theory, and it very well may be. I have to look into it further. If you would like to, please feel free and let me know what you find out in the comments. I would love to find that out. I just had to include that, though, just to tell you what cosmologists are currently saying, and it does give a little more credence to the parallel dimension idea too, doesn't it? So, moving on, now we have empathy HD. And of course, like everything, we must first define a couple vocabulary words. Empathy. What is empathy? This is not a crazy woo-woo out there concept at all. Empathy is merely the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. So when you watch somebody burn themselves and you suddenly feel that want to help them because you know what that pain is like, or you see somebody get hurt in any way and you rush to their side to help them and find out how you can help, that is because you have empathy. You have understanding of how they are feeling and understanding that it's good or bad, because you know what it's like yourself. That is empathy. That is all empathy is. Not to be confused with an empath. Now, these two empaths right here were always my favorites, Spock and Deanna Troi. And now that I'm looking at them on screen, I can't help but think how much of a wonderful couple they actually would make. Though they'd probably be reading each other's minds too much. Anyway, could never lie to each other, could they? Best relationship ever. So an empath... Being an empath is when you are affected by other people's energies, and you have the innate ability to intuitively feel and perceive others. Your life is unconsciously influenced by others' desires, wishes, thoughts, and moods. Being an empath is much more than being highly sensitive, and is not just limited to emotions. So, what this is saying is being an empath is you can more deeply understand what a person is thinking, feeling, going through, whatever the case may be. An empath is a person that picks up on these frequencies, the frequencies of the emotion sending out, the frequencies that the body's sending out. The higher empathy levels in a person could cause a person to be an empath. Short, sweet, and simple. So even if you don't buy that one, I promise there's more. So quantum empathy is how I explain this one even more scientifically. Now that we have an understanding of what an empath is, let us consider that as humans, we run at certain frequencies. These frequencies do not just exist within our bodies or within our skulls. Like all electromagnetic waves, they radiate outwards from us. Perhaps empaths operate on a frequency in which they are more sensitive to the frequencies given off by those around them. So, everything we think, everything we feel, everything we are is constantly radiating outwards. The frequencies or the vibrations of these emotions and thoughts and feelings and physicalities. They're always radiating outwards from our person. This is one reason that some people are able to see auras, and even cameras that can catch auras, because it is my belief that is just a electromagnetic frequency wave being displayed as a color. So, now that I've gotten a little bit off topic again, it's not that far off topic. Quantum empathy is the idea that because of the frequencies given off by the body, that other ones can quantumly pick this up and have that empathy feeling or the empathy ability. And this also ties into quantum entanglement. This is a physical phenomenon that occurs when two pairs of particles are generated or interact with in such a way that they can only be considered as... I'm not going to read this crazy, wild, wordy statement, explanation of quantum entanglement. You guys deserve better than that. If you want to read this scientific jargon, here's the link right here. Let me put it in a little bit better terms that I would understand. In layman's terms, if two particles or two waves are close to each other for long enough, they start vibrating at the same frequency, or they become in sync with each other. So you have two particles, they're right next to each other. They sit there long enough, they're going to vibrate at the exact same wavelength. In my opinion, this would explain why we become in sync with our pets and even those around us. We all say all the time that we're on the same wavelength as someone. Well, turns out that might be very true. This also explains twins and why so many cases have been reported as having an unexplainable connection. I don't understand why science calls this unexplainable still, when they have the quantum entanglement proof, yet they cannot understand why twins have a quantum connection. Here's why, in my opinion. Twins are usually from the same egg, which is the same single or cell, which is the same molecules, which is the same protons, neutrons, electrons, and atoms. So if you've got two atoms vibrating right next to each other, as we just learned, and they sit there for long enough next to each other, they're going to vibrate at the same wavelength, especially groups of atoms like this. Now, if this group got split when the egg was split, they split into two different areas and went two different ways, they would still have the quantum entangled connection. I also believe this happens with our pets, because we're around our pets more so than anybody else in this world. So it is my belief that if we're around them enough, that our frequencies given off by our bodies and theirs would become in sync with each other, and the animals could just as much read our minds as we understand what they're thinking and saying part of the time, too. So, moving on from there. If you're in a group of peoples, for instance, here's another example. And you're standing there talking with your friends, and you have a thought that has nothing to do with the conversation whatsoever at all, period. And you don't say it. Within seconds, a person to your left, right, in front of you, whatever the case may be, another person in the group will say exactly what you were thinking, even word for word. Now, how could that be possible? Unless there's a quantum wavelength connection somewhere along the line. These are usually people that you've been around quite a while in your life, if not quite a while at that time. I believe that any of us can get on the same wavelength as each other. We just need to be around each other for long enough. So this leads me into manifestation. Well, isn't that a little woo-woo, Darkwolf? Well, no, not really. I mentioned in my other videos, but wait, I promise you I'm leading somewhere with all of this. It's not just random ideas or random information. It's all going down a path, I promise. Keep in mind, everything we've talked about so far, it's got to tie together. This is the first two, I cannot think of the word I'm looking for. First two meanings of the word manifestation. I'm so sorry, guys. A little bit tired here. These are the first two meanings of the word manifestation. You can read them if you'd like. They don't fit our particular meaning in this case, so we're going to skip to the next two. The last one, a version or incarnation of something or someone, which means you made something appear. You manifested something. You made an incarnation appear. You called someone to be around you. You manifested this idea. That is what this is about. But I must bring this back around to science. So one of my favorite things is Star Trek, and one of my favorite things about Star Trek was the replicator. And the reason I loved it so much is because it was so plausible. I had to figure out how we could at least theoretically build one of these. I love this idea. So this is the idea I personally came up with on how to build a replicator, or at least how a replicator would work. Everything is vibration. Vibration is frequency. Everything in the world is vibrating at a frequency. We have all seen the Star Trek replicator. Theoretically, if you had the right set of vibrations in the right order, then you could literally change the vibration of the molecules in the air to whatever other molecule you wanted them to be, just by changing the frequency at which they vibrate. So you could walk up to the machine and say, tea, Earl Grey, hot. If you can guess which one of my favorite Star Trek characters that's from, that was my favorite series. If you can guess which series it is, 10 bonus points. If you can tell me exactly what character it was from that series, 20 bonus points. See you in the comments. Alright, anyway. The replicator sounds like such a woo-woo, far-out science sci-fi concept. And even the explanation of how it could be, making vibration or molecules vibrate differently. Well, how has that got to do with anything? That can't do nothing. Well, actually, this man says it can. This is Michio Kaku, Dr. Michio Kaku. He's an astrophysicist, he is a theoretical physicist, and he is a professor at the New York City College. He helped create the idea of string theory. In string theory, all particles are vibrations on a tiny rubber band. Physics is the harmonies of the string. Chemistry is the melodies we play on vibrating strings, and the universe is a symphony of strings with the mind of God being cosmic music resonating in 11-dimensional hyperspace. This man does have a way of putting things, doesn't he? What he's basically saying is, if you look at the second paragraph here, I apologize for being so small. String theory asserts that the fundamental building blocks of nature are not like points. Instead, they're like little bitty pieces of yarn or pieces of string. They have length, and these little strings vibrate. The different particles and forces we see in nature are just the vibrations of different strings. So one's vibrating at one wavelength and it's an atom, or a proton. Another's vibrating at a different wavelength and it's an electron. Another one at a different wavelength is the neutron. Another one is a quark. You see where I'm going with this, everybody. So string theory says it's very, very plausible to build a replicator from Star Trek. How cool is that? But string theory also says that everything is vibrations. Everything and everything and everything is frequency. From the Mountain Dew bottle that you may be drinking out of, to the desk you may be sitting at, to the chair you may be sitting in, to the ground you're walking on. Everything is vibrating, including the earth itself. Every piece of matter in the world vibrates. So now that we've gone into empathy in HD with the manifestation, and I must mention that it's been my experience in the Mandela effect community that almost everybody I've found that is affected by it, and I say almost, is an empath. I've also found that these empaths are finding that manifestation, personal manifestation especially for them, has been off the charts. It could have something to do with a lot of them being together, a lot of us being together, or it could have something else entirely to do with the frequencies all around us. Now we're going to get into the biggest one ever, the junk DNA. And this is my absolute favorite part, guys. This is where I'm going to tie everything together, I promise. If you've stuck with me this far, you are a true trooper. I thank you so much. We're almost done. Just bear with me. Junk DNA? What is junk DNA? It is genomic DNA that does not encode proteins and whose function, if it has one, is not well understood. So in layman's terms, it's DNA that does not tell our body to do anything certain, and it, as far as science knows, has, no idea what it is. So we have DNA that science has no explanation for, and they're referred to as, quote, junk, end quote, DNA. The problem is nature does not waste energy or resources. And real quick, I was discussing this with somebody, and I used the common phrase junk DNA, and they said, you know what? I'm a little offended by that. I had to admit I was too when I found out what you're about to find out. So it always takes the path of least resistance, nature does. It doesn't waste anything. I've never heard of nature having a junkyard anywhere. Humans do that, not nature. Nature wastes nothing. So no part of the DNA is accidentally created, in my opinion. So, you're probably sitting there thinking, well, it's probably a really small amount, the junk DNA. I know I thought that. It's probably just tiny. Just, compared to what we're using, it's probably just maybe 1 or 2%. Well, for everybody who thought that, you and I were both wrong. The human genome contains around 20,000 genes. That is the stretches of DNA that do encode proteins. Now here's the crazy part. These genes only account for 1.2% or about that of the total genome. The other 98.8% is known as non-coding DNA. I'm sorry, guys, that's a whole lot of DNA just to throw the word junk at. I don't believe 98% of our DNA is junk. And you think about this, our DNA does code the evolutionary parts of our past. It also codes the evolutionary parts of our present. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Because here we have 3-strand DNA. Could this be evidence that it encodes DNA information for our future selves too? What we're looking at is a picture that was done of another picture of a crop circle that is on the right. On the left, I have the blown up version that somebody marked out and did exactly like the one on the right. So, on the left-hand side, we have something very interesting. In the 1970s, Carl Sagan sent out a golden disc. And in this golden disc, it had a lot of information. It had where Earth was, it had what we look like, and it had our genetic code and DNA strand. Well, on the right is a crop circle that was received in England, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. But it was a crop circle that was found on the Earth. Let's go with that. And apparently, this was sent back to us. We have the one we sent out on the left, and we have a reply on the right. Now, I don't put 110% scientific basis into crop circles. I'm saying this is something odd that I found, and I thought it was really, really odd that it correlates. But now that I've dropped the disclaimer, here we go. The one on the right, not the picture on the right, but in the picture on the left, the alien-looking thing on the right of this picture is supposed to be the reply with a different DNA strand. It has 3 strands of DNA and not 2. Well, you may be thinking, well, okay, even if that's possible, even if we believe it is a real crop circle and this is an answer, how could we do anything with 3-strand DNA? That just sounds too wild. We've only got 2 strands of DNA. Well, we were wrong again. 3-strand DNA. A few years ago, geneticists officially acknowledged the first case of a child with 3 strands of DNA. This child, named Alfie Clamp, was a 2-year-old boy who became the only person in the world to be diagnosed with 3 DNA strands. Unfortunately, he was born blind and with severe disabilities. Now, I don't find this odd at all. If genes are just beginning to turn on, there are going to be some malfunctions in the beginning. I fully believe that. As it's turned on more and more, I believe the new coded pieces of the genes would fix these small malfunctions that do occur at the beginning. Recently, a Cambridge study is now suggesting that 4-strand, quadruple helix, of DNA also exists within humans. Some geneticists even believe the human body has the potential to carry up to 12 strands of DNA. So anybody who thought this was a wild concept a moment ago, this is geneticist speaking, not Darkwolf. I was wrong on this myself. I will admit that I was wrong on this. I didn't think it was possible. Somebody brought me this information and I called them crazy. And then I researched it and I had to go back and apologize. So, careful what you call somebody. They just might be right, especially if they're a conspiracy theorist. I'm getting off on a rant again. 3-strand DNA. So here it is. I'm going to tie it all together, guys. The evolution frequency theory states that if our DNA started being activated by the sudden new change in both the frequencies of our bodies and the frequencies of the Earth, what kind of potential changes could occur? Could our bodies begin to reform on their own, like we've seen in the Mandela effect? Could our ears begin to hear things in a different way? And I'll even go as far as to say, could the frequencies change the old versions of things? The old versions of books, the old recorded versions of tape, like VHS tape and things. Because we still hear the word Luke. We still hear different things that are changed in the Mandela effect. But the past things are changing. Could our perception of the world be changing because of these different aspects? Could our eyes see things in a different way? In essence, could it cause a point of evolution in mankind? And could the Mandela effect merely be the perception of this change in evolution that we are experiencing? So that is the entire theory put together, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate if you've stuck with me this long. We're not done. Don't worry, we're not done, not yet. But if you've stuck around this long, you are a real trooper. Now for a treat. In conclusion, what do you think? Can the test by HAARP and other variables like the vibrations of stars be changing the frequency of the Earth's human resonance, whether on purpose or by accident? They may not even be aware they're causing or affecting this. Could it be done enough to be affecting the frequencies of our bodies and perhaps activating our junk DNA, or at least some of it? I don't think this is totally out of the realm of possibility myself. If you think it is, let me know. If you think it's not, let me know. If you have any other wonderful ideas, I would be glad to hear them. If you disagree with anything I've said, please let me know. But I do ask once again that you show me why I'm wrong. Don't just tell me. I would love to know why I'm wrong. Give me an example. I love learning too. So when I'm wrong is how I learn stuff. It's how we all learn stuff, right? I would love to give a special thanks real quick to everybody who has helped me. My friends on Discord, the Hangouts group that I talk to every night. UniRock himself has given me so much help. He's been one of the best friends I've had online as far as the YouTube community goes. We do our shows almost every night together. I'm so thankful to have his help in everything that we put together in collaboration or on our own. I can't thank him enough. UniRock, he's helped me above and beyond. And if not for him, we wouldn't have the Rockinati show, and we wouldn't have such a great fan base, and just so much he's done for us, guys. If you don't know his channel, please go check him out. He is absolutely amazing. I cannot talk him up enough. We're co-host on the Rockinati show. Make sure you guys catch that when you can. Also, moving along, I'd like to thank Dr. Lupo. Dr. Lupo had me on his show back on April 20th, if you'd like to check me out on there. He did not have to do that. I much appreciate him bringing me on the show to talk about everything that I do and all the craziness we're into. I'd like to thank the rest of the entire Mandela Effect community, everyone who's watched my videos, everyone who's listened, everyone who's given me ideas, everyone who's been there with all the love and support they've given me. I cannot thank you enough. You guys have been absolutely amazing, and I really appreciate it. One person I would like to point out, I spoke in my Hangouts group earlier. There's a lady named Melanie Gallagher. Now, I know it's weird for me to drop a name, so there's a reason behind it, I promise. This is her YouTube page. Melanie Gallagher has decided to put up a YouTube page on something that she fully, wholeheartedly believes in, and I do too. What is that? That is the Ubuntu Contributionism Society. If you want to find out what we're talking about, what Ubuntu is and what contributionism is and how it works, check this lady out, guys. She is absolutely amazing. Her information is amazing. And for those who love the British accent, she's British. Double whammy, double hoorah. I love it. She's an amazing friend. She's a wonderful person. She's a good friend of mine. I asked her permission to give her a shout out in my video, and she gladly accepted. So everybody, please check her page out. Once again, this is a picture of her page on YouTube. She's helped me out a lot with information. She's given me information. She's given me ideas. She's been part of the group ideas. I can't thank her enough, and I can't shout her out enough, guys. Check out her channel, please. She's just new and up and coming. See, she only has 19 subscribers, 18. Let's see if we can't bring that on up just a little bit, all right? I appreciate everybody for stopping by. If you do like her channel, hit that thumbs up. If you like this channel and you like this video, hit that thumbs up. If you like anything a YouTuber does and you're watching their video, if you like it, let them know you like it. Hit the thumbs up. Also, please feel free to share any information you found in here. Everything I do is fair use. You are more than welcome to share this video, even pieces or parts of this video. I just want information to be put out there. That's all I ask. If you would like to put reference to me, that's fine. I would appreciate it. If you want to send people over to Darkwolf's Den, that's great. But it is not necessary. Just put the information out for the people. Also remember to hit the subscribe button. If you find a YouTuber that you like and you want to keep following them, hit that subscribe button. If you want to know every time that they drop a video, hit the little bell. YouTube has changed things up a little bit. You subscribe to them, but you got to hit the bell in order to get their most recent updates the moment they update. So make sure you guys do that on my page if you like what I'm doing, on Melanie's page if you like what she's doing, and any other YouTuber, UniRock, Dr. Lupo, any of them. If you like what they're doing, let YouTube know, and that also lets the creator know. So I thank everybody for sticking with me this long. This has been Evolution Frequency Theory Series Part 2 of the Mandela Effect Theory Series. I would just like to end on one idea. Always remember, everybody, stay awake, but dare to dream. Thanks, guys.